Cozy Glow. Cozy, you know who she is already. Hey everyone, Hatless Cozy Glow here, coming to you with another Cozy Glow video. What a shocker. But come on, I hear you say. You've already made 2 in-depth cozy analysis videos. What more could you possibly say on the subject matter? Well, plenty more. Well, strap in, because this is going to be a doozy. But before we get into it, first I want to say I'm very grateful for the big response to my last video. It got quite a bit more attention and views than I was expecting. One thing that became clear to me though, based on the comments, is that opinions on Cozy Glow are still quite split down the middle. There were those who are willing to defend Cozy to the ends of Equestria and say she should have been redeemed, and there were those who aren't as concerned for her or believe she couldn't have ever been reformed. This divide exists nearly everywhere on any Cozy Glow comment section, video, post, doesn't matter. But why? Why is that? How could one fandom watch the same series of episodes and come to such a different conclusion? Where does the divide lie? What's the real problem with Cozy Glow? And I think I might have the answer. Now, it may seem obvious to most of you. It's because they turned a child to stone, and the last episode of the show never showed her being freed. But let's think about this a little deeper. Why exactly is turning a filly to stone, this filly, so controversial? Surely if she's pure evil, there should be no issue of this moment. So why is there such a split opinion on this ending? That's exactly what I intend to find out. Let's start with Cozy's rise to fame, or infamy as it were. School raises Cozy's main claim to infamy when it comes to accusations of irredeemability and being a psychopath. We'll attempt to answer if either of these accusations are true though. She spends her debut episode, and much of her other episodes, portraying herself as a well-intentioned pony in need of help with friendship. By season's end, she's become so helpful that Twilight even calls her right hoof pony. Yet despite having all the friends she could ever want, she still decides that mere friendship isn't enough, because she's after something else. Power. And she's willing to do anything in order to achieve it. She traps Twilight and friends in Tartarus, effectively overthrowing her, overthrows Nace and becomes ruler of the school, and has a big draining spell and is planning to rid all of Equestria of all of its magic, and to declare herself ruler of the school and eventually the Empress of Friendship. She goes through with all these heinous acts, because she fundamentally has the wrong idea about friendship. She only wants it for the power. She either doesn't understand what having friends is like, or simply doesn't care. Either way, Cozy Glow is defeated, and put into Tartarus next to her pen pal Tirek. That's a good idea. Where her fiendish smile at the end hints that she'll be back with a vengeance. This is the last image we see of Season 8. Surely she'll be back to cause great mischief and destruction once again. So then, what does Season 9 add to the table? She appears in the very first episode of Season 9 where she's made a best friend's rock sculpture of her and Tirek. Aw, that's kinda sweet. Oh, but what's this? She's summoned, along with all these villains, to team up to defeat Twilight Sparkle and her friends once and for all? Okay, this sounds kinda sick. Got like a Legion of Doom thing going on. Hey, that's a good name for them. So we're in for another season of evil, right?
Well, working together sounds an awful lot like making friends, so... You two are in luck, because I know all about that!
Oh, that's kinda cute too. But wait, what? Since she was a student at the School of Friendship, it makes her a friendship expert? You're not fooling me, Cozy. She's just masking her real self again. Well, alright, Sombra was defeated, so it's just these 3 following Grogar. So what's next? How evil can it get? Next we have Frenemies, where we get a very interesting look at Cozy Glow. The bulk of this episode is Cozy trying to get Tirek and Chrysalis to work with her. It's actually really tender stuff. She, pesters Tirek and Chrysalis into a team meeting. She begs for them to trust each other.
Rogar wants us to work together to defeat our enemies, which means we need to trust each other.
She begins the song.
Ah! Huh? I think I know.
Right as they're about to climb the mountain, they ditch her, which seems to really bother her.
Ditch each other and do it alone. Maybe when I'm waiting for them at the top, then they'll appreciate me.
And I think I know why. It's because she wants to work with them. It's because she sees the value of teamwork and really wants it. She's really the only one besides Grogar pushing for teamwork, so I think there's a lot more going on with Cozy than it seems. Maybe she does know a thing or two about friendship. Maybe she knows a bit more about friendship than even she gives herself credit for.
Now, Cozy, let's not get too hasty. Keep in mind, this is Cozy Glow we're talking about. To me, her buttering up Tirek and Chrysalis isn't too dissimilar from her manipulative tactics she used throughout Season 8. Yeah, she sees that they can be more effective as a team, but to me, I see this as merely a means to an end. This is a way to achieve the shared desire to defeat the main 6. They don't have each other's best interests in mind.
That's... You know, now that you mention it, I kind of see what you're saying. It's clear that Cozy is using her insincere, syrupy sweetness in order to get Tyr and Chrysalis to work together at the beginning. And, means to an end? I can also see that. They even say as much themselves.
You know, working with you two may not be the worst thing.
Perhaps, as long as it results in the complete destruction of our enemies.
I wouldn't have it any other way. Do the pathetic princess thing again!
And Cozy just happens to realize that they can be more powerful when they combine their forces. But it's not because they're friends or anything. That would be ridiculous, right? Well, let's keep going. Once they all realize that they cannot get to the top of Everhoof alone, they finally work together, and it's a treat. Tyrek uses his strength, Chrysalis uses her versatility, Cozy uses her problem-solving skills, and the way they cross this ledge is genius. Chrysalis even rescues Cozy from slipping. Aw, that's so sweet. Their final obstacle is this barrier. Now, it's what Cozy suggests here that's mind-blowing. Not only does Cozy suggest Tyrek borrow Chrysalis' magic to make himself stronger, but also to give it back when he's done using it.
Can you absorb it and make it go away?
I can only absorb magic from living beings.
Like her?
Betrayal!
Not betrayal. Teamwork. If T-Rex absorbs your energy, he might be strong enough to break through.
And then?
Then he gives it back.
I do?
Mm-hmm.
That's absurd for a villain to be giving back for a change, but Cozy insists for the sake of teamwork. Tyrek says he'll give it back, and thus Chrysalis agrees. But even with all this power, Tyrek can only make a little hole, which thankfully Cozy can fit through. Her being a filly is finally plot relevant. After one suspenseful moment, she succeeds. But what about Chrysalis? Now that Tyrek is done with the extra magic, Chrysalis pleads. Tyrek looks at his muscles, gives it some thought, but ultimately decides yes, to give it back to her. Something that surprises all of them. They were both unsure he was going to give it back. And it's here where we see the outcome of their efforts, and Cozy experiences something she hadn't felt before. In fact, they all feel good. Chrysalis seems very relieved. Tyrek calls it smarter than continuing to fight. Cozy says it felt better somehow. Chrysalis says having others who will be there for you is pleasing. They go on to have further realization that all these years taking power from ponies, and that when you use your power to help others, it feels... oh, god damn it. And of that, all that positive momentum is killed off by Chrysalis. Well, that didn't last long, did it? The villains return to the lair, in light of Grogar saying they don't have the belt, when in fact they do, and they're going to use it against him. And once Chrysalis suggests the double-crossing plan, that's it. There's no looking back on this moment. There's no reflecting or reminiscing at any point after. And you all know how the series ended. So then, is that it? Does Cozy really have no more opportunity to reform after this? Did rejecting this moment effectively seal their fates? Let's keep going and look at the episodes that come after Frenemies. Because if you're gonna have a moment of almost redemption just to not redeem her, you gotta give a pretty damn good reason why. So what do we got? Before we proceed, for argument's sake, I'm going to perhaps controversially not be factoring School Rays into Cozy's redeemability, because I believe her development in Frenemies trumps her bad behavior in School Rays, because the former comes after, thus is a moment of character growth. If not, we'd still be holding Starlight accountable for a cutie remark, which I know some of you are, but can't please everyone, I guess. So Cozy had a chance to make up for School Rays, but how does she blow it in the next few episodes? Summer Sun's setback features Cozy and the Legion sneaking into Canterlot, causing lots of mischief. There's no reflection like in Frenemies. Okay. This should have been my first hint watching that redemption wasn't coming for them. But let's continue. They end the episode finding this book that apparently tells them how to use Grogar's bell. Cool. Why is it locked up in such a specific place, though? Did somebody know they were trying to steal it? Oh, whatever. And then there's Ending of the End. Oh boy, Ending of the End. Let's rapid fire this. She unites with the trio becoming an all-powerful Alicorn. Epic. They betray Grogar, who turns out to be Discord. Not so epic. Cozy attempts to hog Discord's chaos magic and... betray Tyrek and Chrysalis? I don't know, she says kneel before my wrath, so it's tough to say what she would have done next. I've heard some people claim that she was actually going to destroy them, but I don't really see it. But sure, trying to wield chaos magic all for herself is pretty evil. Alright, strike one. She takes the bell and raids Canterlot herself. She fires a beam of magic directly at Twilight and hits her. Okay, strike two. And fires another beam at three of the princesses. Okay, that's pretty bad. We're already at 3 strikes. And perhaps worst of all in my opinion, she calls for the complete destruction of her captives.
And now for your complete destruction!
And in case there was any doubt about what Cozy means, Chrysalis herself calls destruction permanent. And all of this is after this. So, did Cozy not learn from it? Well, obviously not. But why is that? We'll get to that. Big epic showdown happens. Not actually that epic in my opinion. Tyrek was way better in Season 4. The episode ends with Twilight and her friends all succeeding. What a surprise. But instead of reforming the Legion, Discord and the princesses do you-know-what to you-know-who. Let's just end the recap before I get more upset. Cozy is absent from the last problem aside from a few cameos, neither of which hint at a reformation. Whoop-de-doodle-doo. The book closes and G4 is over, aside from Pony Life comics and possibly more comics coming in the future. But that can't be the end of the series. That was just a series of cheap walk cycles. Where's Cozy Glow? Was this really her fate? Is this really what she deserves? Cozy couldn't have possibly deserved this. Could she have? Not after this, right? It's fine, it's all Chrysalis' fault. She's just a child, she just needed the right guidance. This is merely the result of the circumstance she was in. In my personal opinion, no. I know, shocking. Simply knowing that a special moment of character growth was possible for Cozy is enough for me to say that this moment was excessive and undeserved. I'll admit it, what Cozy did in Ending of the End is really bad. She does it in spite of what she learned in Frenemies, which is a really bad look for her. Now, I skimmed past School Rays earlier since I believe her development in Frenemies could potentially make up for her actions in it. But now let's ask ourselves why Cozy chose to be evil in the first place. And I suppose at this point I have no choice but to speculate. We won't speculate too much, but the way I see it, there's two main possibilities for Cozy's backstory. Option A, she has no parents or caregivers for whatever reason, and spent a lot of time alone. Or option B, she does have parents, and lives a fairly good life, and in spite of that, she still decides that this was the best path forward for her. If B is true, it's much harder to have sympathy for her, or believe she can be redeemed. If she had it good, but still chose to be evil, it means she will likely always choose evil, even if another opportunity is presented to her. Or, and this is what I personally believe, she doesn't have parents, for whatever reason, thus she had no pony who could have steered her down the more righteous path. She must have had a really hard time before. Why else would she be struggling like this in the School of Friendship? Why else would she have such great desire for power and becoming a leader? It's because she spent so much time living at the bottom, now she wants to sit at the top. But thinking about what Cozy's backstory could be, I just find it hard to believe that she had a good life and chose to throw it away for evil. Because after seeing her in Frenemies, it appears to me that maybe she was deprived. If Cozy Glow came from a nice and loving family, then this moment shouldn't feel novel to her. If she had a loving family but ran away to the School of Friendship to drain the magic, surely she'd be immune to developing these kind of feelings. Running away from a good family would suggest a lack of empathy and remorse, but this scene is evidence for the opposite. That's why I believe she lacked a decent upbringing. Now you might be thinking, forget her backstory, Cozy had everything she could have wanted at the School of Friendship. And yeah, perhaps she did, yet she still decided to betray every pony and drain the magic. So she isn't interested in friendship at all then? But what about Frenemies? For whatever reason, this moment did it for her, but the entire School of Friendship didn't. Maybe these two aren't the wrong crowd for her after all. The contrast between this moment and every other Cozy moment really is head-scratching, huh? So sure, School Rays in a vacuum, choose your own backstory and explanation for her behavior, but to me, Frenemies highly suggests option A. It really is a glimpse into what a reformed Cozy could be like and how she'd feel. But in spite of all that, she follows Chrysalis and then become evil Alicorn, yada it's a tragedy. For more on the psyche of Cozy, I highly recommend this excellent video by Dama that does a great job explaining why Cozy being a child matters and why she was mistreated in the show and why locking her away was not the best decision to do for her. But okay, putting aside what the show decided to do for a moment, and speaking about this purely from an audience standpoint, if you feel that this evil rampage taking place after Frenemies makes Cozy irredeemable, and you don't want to forgive Cozy for this, or want to believe the psycho theory, whatever, then honestly, I can't fault you for that. You're entitled to your opinion, and it's a totally valid interpretation of Cozy Glow. As much as I want to deny it, her character is vague and open enough that there's enough wiggle room for me to believe it. I don't personally want to believe it, but I can see where people are coming from. Me personally, at most I'm willing to concede that maybe Cozy wasn't destined for reformation, but if that's the case, then I still consider Cozy to be a tragic character. A tragic character who missed her opportunity at redemption and or reformation, and I still believe that it's possible for her. I refuse to believe that this moment simply never could have been built upon, that Twilight couldn't have possibly built upon this moment or convinced her to truly embrace friendship. Now I've heard many people say that Cozy turning her back on friendship is what makes her so evil. The fact she can look friendship in the eye and decide, no, that's not what I want to cause chaos, villainy, and destruction. But is that really what's going on here? Is Cozy really that resentful of friendship? The other principal argument I have against this point is, well, what did you expect her to do? Let's say Cozy did have a change of heart and did decide she didn't want to be evil anymore. Let's say she changed her mind and didn't want to use this bell. What exactly could she even do? Who are the two creatures surrounding her? Big, magic-eating centaur, Tirek, and the ravenous changeling queen, Chrysalis. Grogar already threatened violence if the three do not work together. And Chrysalis, I dread to think what Chrysalis would have done to Cozy if she turned her back on her. Tirek, I don't know, he seems to care about her somewhat, but who knows how long that would last. Now, am I saying that deep down she did want to do the right thing? No. What I'm saying is, Cozy was only pulled back into villainy because of Chrysalis. If you're gonna surround her with these creatures feeding into her evil tendencies, of course that's the path she's gonna go down. But it isn't a path she necessarily had to take. And given what we've seen of Cozy, I'm confident the right caregiver easily could have steered her down a more righteous path. If by some miracle this moment was witnessed by Twilight Sparkle, this would have been the perfect moment to reach out to her. Twilight would have witnessed full well that Cozy can be taught, she can realize friendship. There'd be no excuse not to reach out to her then. And if there's any pony that can protect Cozy from the Legion, it'd be her. I still truly believe that Cozy could have been reformed and have gone on to play a big role in Equestria, and be embraced by every pony and made real friends. And if the show ended that way for her, she would have been much happier for it. And that's really all I wanted for Cozy Glow. But, as Lemony Snicket put it, that's not how the story goes. She missed reformation purely down to those surrounding her, in my honest opinion. Hold her accountable, yes, but also recognize that Cozy is a lot more impressionable than you may think, and she's changed quite a lot since School Raise. We see that friendship makes her feel good. Even after snapping out of the moment, Cozy doesn't seem all that sure of herself. She quickly exclaims same, and looks somewhat reluctant. Even her next line, Grogar says we have to work together.
But Grogar said we have to work together.
Why say this? Why appeal to their superior? Why the italics on have to? I suspect it's because Cozy doesn't want this moment of teamwork to be their last. She very much consciously cares about their teamwork. That's quite far from psychopath behavior. It's an important moment of character development. I can understand Cozy not wanting redemption in School Raise. That moment wasn't it. Not even close. Cozy was too stubborn, and aside from talking to by Twilight, really wasn't challenged on her views. If your lessons didn't teach Cozy, why would this talk do it? Especially when you end it by saying, I'm sorry I couldn't teach you. Frenemies, on the other hand, was a much more impactful moment of character development. She learned through actual experience what teamwork and friendship can really do for her. Not unlike the Student 6's arc of friendship. That's why I believe this moment simply can't be dismissed. But they do ignore it. They don't entertain any possibility for anything better for Cozy and put her in stone, without even bothering to reach out to her. And that, I feel, is the true problem with Cozy Glow. But who cares that they turned Ophelia to stone? The fans are tired of redemption arcs, so we're not going to do that anymore. Who cares? Who cares that Cozy wasn't redeemed? Who cares that they decided to turn her to stone instead of trying to, reason with her? What's the big deal that Twilight didn't try to reach out to Cozy? Here's why it's a big deal. By not reaching out to Cozy, this ending will always feel unsatisfactory at best, and the main six's inaction feel very jarring given their past actions. Not to dog on Twilight too much, but for Twilight Sparkle, Twilight, who leapt into the poniest shadows to save Stygian, is now suddenly okay with watching her former student be turned to stone. Not a single hint of regret that you couldn't change her? Oh, but she's just one bad egg. Well, maybe she isn't. Maybe there's more going on with her. Just a hunch. But it's not like any pony cared to find out anyway. To me, it just felt like this moment went against what these characters stood for, to help those in need. Well, here's a filly in need, but we're not going to try to help her. By effectively choosing to kick a Pegasus filly while she's down, by not reaching out to her, not at all willing to hear her out, I think is the single most damning thing Twilight and her friends are guilty of. The fact that Twilight, in fact no one reaches out or has any sympathy for Cozy, not a single in this crowd speaks out or realizes, hey, wait, isn't this kind of weird? It makes them all look bad. Yes, even Twilight's parents. Tempest, Lyra, or even my Kieran Autumnblaze isn't free from scrutiny. This moment makes them all look bad. Now, I've heard a lot of people say that Cozy still, even in Ending of the End, turned down an opportunity at redemption. In School Raise, yes, she very clearly denies friendship and an opportunity after her defeat, and is too prideful and doubles down. But in Ending of the End? Please tell me, where exactly was Cozy's opportunity at redemption here? Was it the 3 seconds before Chrysalis spoke out? Was it the 3 seconds before the princess stepped in and decided to bestow this horrible punishment onto her? How exactly could she have even gone ahead with begging for forgiveness here, if she wanted to? Could she have? It all just happened so fast and they don't have a second forethought. There was no opportunity for redemption in this episode. I don't know why everyone keeps saying Cozy had her chance to have redemption but rejected it, when she clearly didn't get any kind of chance here. There's no formal declaration by Cozy that she'll absolutely never choose friendship or that she'll always come back evil. Kind of like, what Chrysalis had. Yeah, the only one who speaks is Chrysalis. The only one who's dumb enough to speak out against the main six after her defeat. but everyone just decides that Chrysalis apparently speaks for Cozy and T-Rex. No pony's willing to try to understand, reason, or even hear out Cozy before she gets sealed away. What the hell? She's already defeated and powerless. What more can she do? It's the fact that kick her while she's down makes this especially rude, and a direct contradiction of nearly everything the Princess of Friendship has advocated for. This isn't Discord being turned to stone, which is his defeat, or Sombra's destruction. She's completely powerless. And this is what you decide to do to a Pegasus filly? She doesn't get to say a word, and she looks terrified while being turned to stone. Far from being vengeful to the end. This, coupled with how close she got to Reformation, is why I hate this scene so much. In a scene that bears so many parallels to the Reformation of Luna and Sunset, to just pull the cupcake frosting over her eyes and have Discord give them a punishment he of all people should know really sucks is completely baffling. And the main problem with being in stone is some pony has to reach out to her first, otherwise she literally won't be able to see or feel anything in the real world again. How could they do that to a filly? That's sort of what makes stone such a brutal punishment. I do not like how after her defeat, the only thing on their mind is to punish her. She hasn't said or done anything herself, just Chrysalis. But Celestia and Luna decide it isn't worth hearing out a Pegasus filly, and the only thing she deserves is a punishment worthy for what she's done. Discord, on the other hand, he's fine. He had good intentions. I know she just got done with one of the biggest invasions in Equestria, but shouldn't they think that a Pegasus filly being evil begs for an explanation? I guess they don't. A big reason why all of this happened is because you locked her away, you left her unattended with Lord T-Rex, and allowed Discord to take her and team her up with the other villains, and create an even bigger threat. You partly created this by choosing to lock her away instead of reforming her, which would have been a better long-term solution. Do you see why these punishments make no sense? And no, I'm not saying Cozy Glow immediately after her defeat should have just hugged it out with Twilight and marched through the streets of Ponyville singing. That would be weird! Punish her, yes, she clearly needs to get taught a lesson. That's the whole point of punishments, in theory. Put her in jail, maybe, just not Tartarus. And if you want to give her a chance, but it's still doubtful as to whether she can be trusted, keep a close watch on her and monitor her growth. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. And no, I personally don't care that there are too many redemptions in the show. To me, that was never really a concern. Friendship is Magic was always feel-good escapism from me. Yes, Elliott's redemption left something to be desired, but a good Reformation arc is still a good story. Yeah, you want to change things up a little. And would you look at this? We have a very unique villain. We've never had a villain so young, so surely there was an opportunity to have a unique redemption arc. They had the pieces in place to tell an amazing redemption arc with Cozy. They could have done so much with this character, but I guess they got cold hooves from the Starlight fiasco, and even after Frenemies decided she wasn't going to be redeemed. Oh, and put her in stone for good measure. We don't want too many lingering plot lines. Or maybe we do, I don't know. Honestly, I think it just comes down to, it was the end of the show, they stuck to their guns about not reforming Cozy, and they just didn't have time to flesh her out or filter her from the Legion of Doom. This character who could have really stood out on her own really was just part of this evil team that they just had to have be the final bosses. They just decided that because she's teamed up with them, that they should all get the same punishment because it's most convenient. I mean, look how much runtime is left of the episode. Cozy didn't have to be evil. This wasn't an inevitability. There was a path of redemption for Cozy, and she nearly had it. Yeah, it doesn't happen. I can accept that. But that doesn't mean it couldn't have happened. This moment existing makes it hard for me to accept that she simply never could have been redeemed. And it makes it all the more a shame that Twilight didn't reach out in ending at the end. Regardless of if it could have happened or not, what muddies the water even more is that Discord, their friend, is the reason she has the bell in the first place, and explicitly instructs her to defeat Twilight Sparkle once and for all. Oh, but I guess this is all Cozy's fault because Discord is a good guy, and she's a baddie. Not knowing anything about Cozy's past or motives also makes it difficult to judge whether this moment was deserved. Bottom line, don't leave her motives so ambiguous if you're gonna make her ending so definitive. The split opinion on Cozy is evidence that there was a narrative blunder, because a lot of fans like me saw the good in her and were disappointed when she was punished so harshly, while others saw the evil and destructive nature she had in School Raise and ending of the end, and don't see the big deal of her getting stoned. And that, I suppose, is where the disagreement is gonna lie. But if all these creatures were reached out to, why not the Pegasus filly? Why not the Pegasus filly who showed so much potential to change and whose motives are so unclear? But seriously, were actions in ending of the end really that bad that they were just beyond forgiveness? That of all the things we witnessed in the show, this is where we draw the line? Not turning all of Ponyville into a chaotic nightmare? This raid on Canterlot was forgivable, but this one wasn't? Traveling back in time to ruin your enemy's most important moment and change the timeline completely? We're gonna forgive that, but not this? But in my opinion, what Cozy did in Ending of the End is no worse than what Tempest or Starlight did. And like I said, she had the potential to move on from School Raise. Tempest, with the Storm King's army, drove all the Hippogriffs into hiding and raided Canterlot. I guess it's fine when she does it. And she turned the three princesses to stone, which, you know. There's nothing especially bad about Cozy that makes her immune to redemption.
But Cozy Glow, there's one more thing to consider with these characters you just mentioned. Yes, the actions you mentioned may be on par with what Cozy did, but what separates them from her was their willingness to change. Discord was willing to change after he lost Fluttershy's friendship. Tempest, once she realized she'd been duped by the Storm King, and Starlight, when she saw the cataclysmic effect her spell had on the timeline. Cozy Glow never had such a moment. She never expressed any remorse for her actions, or any willingness to change.
You know, that is a good point, and one I hear a lot. But the way I see it is, I don't believe she would have found a willingness to change on her own, unless Pony was really committed to assisting her. Not because she's evil, but because she's a child, and needed someone to guide her and nurture the goodness in her. Discord didn't really express a want for friendship until Fluttershy became his friend, and gave him the benefit of the doubt, and agreed not to use her element of harmony on him. And it's only when he lost Fluttershy as a friend, like you said, did it really click, and he realized he lost something he never had, but decided he actually wanted. Cozy was completely without any kind of figure like this during her time in the show, thus she was totally without this revelation. That's why her lack of redemption is so sad to me. And Frenemies was a glimpse of what could have been if that need was filled properly. And if Twilight just gave her one more chance in ending, just one more chance, push aside these two jerks and see what Cozy really has to say for herself. What do you think would have happened then? And here's one more bit of advice, Twilight. Just don't give up on her like that. Without any explanation into Cozy's motives, it makes it even harder to determine whether or not she's capable of redemption. A filly, being evil, I'm sorry, begs for an explanation, because it makes no sense. Irredeemable child psycho, I just don't see it. Their expedition to Everhoof was an example of her needs being filled. She felt good after collecting Grogar's bell, not because of the power that she now held in her hooves, but because for the first time, she felt that void in her heart being filled by something good. Not manipulation or misleading. It turned out that Cozy's heart can be filled with genuine good feelings. The fact that Twilight never learned this is a tragedy. She needed that figure in her life to explain to her what friendship can really do for her, and what she can do for her friends. This shouldn't have been the moment Twilight gave up. Twilight should have taken this as a challenge. It means what you do, you're the princess of friendship. Now that you've seen the real her, you know what you're up against. I'm sure Twilight can find a way to reason of her. She's just a regular Pegasus after all. Cozy could have been reformed, and it wouldn't have taken much. She just needed some pony who believed in her, some pony who truly wanted the best for her, some pony to push her and challenge her on her preconceived notions of friendship and power. She needed some pony who truly wanted the best for her, and she never got it. To just not offer her one last chance, in my opinion, completely misread the mark of her character, and misread what the show was truly about. I get it, there's a hint of irony by having them all stuck together. But was it really worth the controversy that came with turning a filly to stone? Was it worth making this cute Pegasus filly a twist villain if you weren't gonna flesh her out? I mean, she is a cool character, and I'm glad they added her. I don't know. But Cozy, they were trying to teach us a lesson. Not everyone can be redeemed. Indeed, not everyone can be redeemed. King Sombra, the Storm King, and by this point Chrysalis, yeah, I see them as irredeemable villains as far as the show's concerned. Hell, it's kind of what we were expecting from Grogar if it was the real him. But if they wanted to showcase an irredeemable villain with Cozy Glow, then in my opinion, they didn't even do a good job at that, by hinting that she had so much more depth than what was initially seen. To me, it's just, this is Cozy Glow, not this or this. I wanted more of this, after seeing how bright and sweet she can really be. But the real her never got to fully glow. And look, I could more easily live with this moment if it wasn't the very last time we saw Cozy Glow. Instead of leaving her out of the last problem, it would have been nice if they just gave us one little hint to fill us with hope. Oh.
You finished?
Yeah, I think so. You got anything to add?
Well, I just wanted to ask, why are you taking this so seriously? You gave several reasons why you believe Cozy Glow wasn't left in stone forever. Isn't it enough to enjoy the character for what she was, and be hopeful for her future?
Yeah, I suppose you're right. This video was really just one last response to the Cozy Can't Be Redeemed comments I got in my last video. I do tend to let these comments get to me, but I think after this, now that I've said my word, I'll try to focus less on the negativity, and try to move forward. And yeah, admire Cozy Glow for what she is, not what her final episode was about. Thank you, Cozy Glow, for helping me realize that.
You're welcome, Cozy Glow.
Wait, I'm not Cozy Glow.
Neither am I.
Then, why do we both look like her? Wait a second. If Cozy Glow were free from stone, what do you suppose she would do? Uh-oh.
Well, be careful what you wish for, friend. You just might get it.
No kidding. So there you have it, another long-winded video about Cozy Glow. And look, the point of this video was not to keep the debate going, even though that's probably what it came across as. The point of the video really is just to explain why I feel the way I do, why many others feel the way they do, why I still genuinely dislike this episode, and why I dislike reading comments saying Cozy couldn't have been redeemed. I can totally understand where those comments are coming from though. I understand people not wanting to forgive Cozy Glow, or just thinking that she's beyond redemption. I can see it. That's just not my stance though. But hopefully you now have a better understanding of my stance. You're welcome to comment saying if you agree or disagree with me. In fact, go ahead and leave comments so I can better understand your stance if you disagree. This is probably my last video on the ending of the end in particular. I think I finally said enough about it for now. But this isn't the end of this channel, far from it. I think I do want to give this content creation thing a try, so heck it. Expect at least a few more cozy videos to come from me as we dive into more niche questions and topics relating to Golly Glow here. But I don't really anticipate fully committing to this channel. It's just something I want to do every now and then when I have something I want to talk about. And I promise my next video will be on a much lighter note. How much more video content can I squeeze out of a niche character from the tail end of Friendship is Magic? Well, we'll find out together. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like the video if you liked it, comment if you have something to say, and subscribe if you want to see future uploads. Oh, and it doesn't hurt to hit the little bell icon. You know, I rarely do it personally, but if you don't want to miss my next video, it's an easy way to get notified for when I upload next. Special thanks to Venomous Pie-Shimmer for agreeing to provide his voiceover for this video, as well as providing feedback and helping to shape the trajectory of the video. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you all next time.